Hello and welcome to the Global Leadership Speaker Series. Thank you all for being here. The Global Leadership Speaker Series is an initiative from the Center for Global Partnerships and Learning and the Associate Dean's Office. This event focused on a myriad of topics that impact the leadership in the global space from April to June. And today we have our last session with Dr. Jisun Kwak. Before we start, I'd like to share some information about the Center. The Center of Partnerships and Learning provides GSEP students with various services ranging from publication support, certificate programs, access to GSEP Academic Journal, the Scholarship Without Borders, and a few other services such as cultural celebrations, info sessions, and workshops. Now, let me introduce our guest speaker, Reverend Dr. Jisun Kwak. Jisun is a proud native of South Korea and earned her bachelor's degree in theology and social work from Yonsei University. She then continued her studies in the United States, earning master's degrees in divinity and religion and philosophy, as well as a PhD in religion and psychology from Drew University. In 1995, Jisun was ordained in the United Methodist Church and served as a senior pastor at Manhattan United Methodist Church. She started in a small part-time role that grew into a full-time position as the church's membership increased. Jisun was then called to serve as a district superintendent in 2011. She was called by Zion Evangelical Lutheran that year and is now enhancing the ecumenical experience of the congregation and of herself. Jisun has extensive experience as a pastoral counselor and has worked at both the Hilltop Counseling Center in Manhattan, New Jersey, and with the Pastoral Counseling Service of Northern New Jersey. She has a strong calling to raise and equip leaders in various fields and help them become spiritually solid and culturally competent in this global society while reaching out to the next generation. Jisun believes that culturally competent leadership is about bringing people together and building meaningful relationships among those living in a culture that revolves around the technological innovations. Since 1997, Jisun has been educating students and has taught as an adjunct professor at the Blanton-Pill Graduate Institute in New York and the New Brunswick Theological Seminary in New Jersey. She currently serves as the executive director of the Pastoral Counseling Mission Center, where virtually educates and trains leaders and provides counseling and coaching for global community. Jisun embraces the dimensions of Asian spirituality that include non-dualistic theology and appreciation for the interconnectedness of humanity, nature, and the cosmos, which requires responsibility to each other and high reverence for God. With these beliefs, Jisun puts high emphasis on being good stewards of natural resources and protecting a healthy earth from all forms of pollution. This not only benefits the earth itself, but also recognizes the implications of humanity in fighting poverty, disease, and other social issues. Jisun is also the proud mother of her dearest heart, Lydia, who is serving the community with her gift of art therapy. So today, Jason, Dr. Kwak, will guide us through a reflection on the intersectionality of solid spirit, healthy soul, self-awareness, and global leadership. Dr. Kwak, thank you so much for being here with us this evening, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the long introduction. I really appreciate it. You know, it is truly a privilege to have this opportunity to share this very, very precious time of yours together. Let me say my name once again, Jisun Kwan. G means wisdom, Sun means sharing, proclaiming. So my probably parents have known that someday I will become a preacher, sharing or proclaiming the wisdom. And it's actually was a boy's name. You know, I was kind of boy in my family when I grew up. And I came from South Korea, as you just heard. And although I lived in the United States for a significant portion of my life, there is a part of me that always feels at home whenever I visit Korea. So today's webinar actually is not intended to be an informational session. I hope not, although I get to talk a lot myself. I would rather it to be an exploration of your story. Your story. You know, during this time, I reflect on my story, and I invite you to reflect on your story, your truth, as we go along all the historical journeys that we will explore today. That I don't think there is anything new information that I'll be sharing today. I just would like to invite you to travel with me into yourself as you just listen to all those informations and see where you are and where your organization or family that you belong to are in at this time. So let me begin this session by sharing a quote from the book of the books, Bible. Let me share. Let's see. And what do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your own soul? Is anything worth more than your soul? What does this speak to you? Actually, it says it all. We can all go home. This contains everything that I want to tell you today. What do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your own soul? Is anything worth more than your soul? There are many leadership qualities for effective leadership. You know, integrity, vision, communication, emotional intelligence, resilience, accountability, empowerment, collaboration, etc. At the last Global Leadership Series webinar, we learned the significance of self-awareness in relation to effective leadership from Dr. Natasha Brown, very important quality of leadership. Leaders who have the ability to see themselves clearly, she said, to recognize and understand their moods, emotions, and drives, as well as impact they have on others. And self-awareness helps leaders navigate crisis and lead even better in crisis. And during the question time, someone questioned, I think it was Maria, I don't know if it was you, and questioned saying, and then what? In other words, what do I do with this valuable information? And in other words, how do I draw my own story? How do I connect this to my own story? A very important question. So let's explore a little bit more on self-awareness. I have worked under a leader who possessed many qualities of effective leadership that I listed there, such as being a visionary, excellent communicator, resilient, and constantly learning the information. However, there was one significant flaw. This leader lacked self-awareness. As a result, his narcissistic performance-oriented approach and disregard for the well-being of others created a toxic environment, causing serious anxiety and dampening the spirit of the clergy and the churches. Ultimately, the leadership had a detrimental impact on the orientation. It is indeed important for leaders to possess the ability to be self-aware. Let me ask you some questions, very simple questions. Do you know your own self well? Do you take a close look at your own mind? Do you understand the hearts of your family members, or fellow believers, or co-workers? And we know very well that it is not an easy task for someone who does not know their own mind well to understand and empathize with others. And the COVID-19 pandemic has had a profound impact on people worldwide, causing spiritual and psychological shock, and actually became trauma. Many people even may suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. It makes it difficult to maintain healthy relationships and lead a vibrant life. The trauma that govern our lives. And disasters lead to blaming someone, as we all know. And after experiencing immense sorrow and despair through a major disaster, anger inevitably arises, and we seek someone to direct that anger toward. This is even more evident in the case of social disasters. We experienced a hatred toward Asians during and after COVID-19 pandemic. It was actually the first time in my 30-some years of being in the United States that I felt fear walking on the street. And my daughter, for a long while, did not use subway while she was living in Brooklyn. And not only on societal level, but also personal level. Trauma-induced anger can be directed toward others and cause deep wounds between individuals. So we often see cases where anger without clear reason divides communities, even within churches. And it's happening a lot lately. And I have not yet encountered anyone who hasn't had some form of traumatic experience, whether big or small. And trauma is just one aspect of how we are. Where when there is anxiety or a lack of stability, we tend to engage in activities continuously to soothe that empty feeling. Some people find comfort in eating or in playing games or shopping. However, if one cannot let go of that tension and carries it for days, weeks, or months, to become an abusive habit, both the body and mind will suffer greatly. And you know, I'm sure you have heard this, that the most difficult thing for human beings nowadays is doing nothing. And the easiest of distractions are phones and the internet. When the mind is unsettled, the body's habits also suffer. So people start to ask, where am I going? Is this all that there is? There must be much more life than this. Thousands of years, humanity has passionately pursued the truth with a capital T. The ultimate answers to life and the universe. This quest generates the soul questions. Who am I? What do I want? What is my purpose? What is the meaning of life? And historically, there have been two fundamental paths to uncover this truth: religion and spirituality. While they share many similarities and are interconnected, there are distinct differences between religion and spirituality, as we are all aware. And religion, by definition, is a personal set or institutionalized system of religious attitude, belief, and practice, the service and worship of God or the supernatural. And spirituality in the Christian perspective refers to the personal relationship and connection between an individual and God through faith in Jesus Christ. It encompasses the belief, practices, and experiences that nourish and deepen this relationship, leading to spiritual growth, transformation, and alignment with God's will. And spirituality in general perspective is the aspect of humanity that refers to the way individuals seek and express meaning and purpose, and the way they experience their connectedness to the moon, to self, to others, to nature, and to the significant or sacred. Spirituality has become the contemporary word of choice for expressing how we live in relation to transcendent truth. Christians worldwide have, to a certain extent, become disconnected from the rich heritage of historical spiritual practices, especially those of a contemplative nature. This loss has sparked a deep longing for their recovery. In the mid-20th century, Thomas Merton played a significant role in reclaiming the practice of contemplation within monastic communities. And Merton's influence extended to a new generation of church leaders and writers from diverse Christian traditions. And a Pew Research Center and General Society survey in the period between 1992 to 2021 shows an increasing movement away from traditional religious institutions. Most recently, 29% of American adults no longer identify with a particular religious tradition. It's much more of a percentage for those under the age of 30. They put check mark under none. This trend is in line with the spiritual but non-religious phenomenon. most of these so-called nuns are genuinely interested in understanding other faith claims and are often willing to test the spiritual practices from other traditions. Yoga, for example, is widely embraced for physical and mental well-being. Mindfulness is now a familiar category in mainstream American life. There is a hunger in our time. For some of us, perhaps, we feel an emptiness that leaves us restless for a larger meaning and purpose in life. Perhaps we sense that something is missing, something is out of balance, but it remains nameless. For others of us, hunger is recognizably spiritual. Suffering has opened us to questions for which there are not easy answers. Yet all the patterns of religious life seem increasingly inadequate. Some are drawn to Asian religion, Native American traditions, or New Age philosophies, and many combine the sources they draw from. And Marjorie Thompson well expressed the factors that contribute to the growing spiritual hunger. There are 4 crucial factors. Rationalism makes reason the highest authority in determining what is true. The spirit or God has no place in the assumption of scientific rationalism. And the technology advances, and we may experience more connection with less depth of relationship. People long for some center of stability and peace. And as a society, we lack a deep sense of purpose that calls us to sacrifice individual desires for the sake of the larger good. And fear burdens our thoughts. Economic and job stability, secure retirement, everything. And personal factors and suffering and tragedy are powerful catalysts for moving people toward spiritual perspective. And they share a deep hunger for direct experience of God. And church is not the place that they can share about it. While sociologists may attribute the universal human religious impulse to psychological need, people of faith believe that we are made for a relationship with God. So I want to go back to the scripture. And what do you benefit if you gain the whole world, but lose your own soul? Is anything worth more than your soul? Dallas Willard, a Christian philosopher, wrote a lot about the nature of human beings. Willard stated that caring for the soul is the path to becoming the healthiest human being. According to him, human being consists of 4 parts: will, which is also spirit, the ability to express opinion; mind, the ability to think and feel; body, the physical body, relationships, interaction with others; and the soul is the capacity that integrates all the functions of a person into a unified existence. In other words, the soul enables a person to have the will to think and feel to move their body and to engage in relationship. For example, if the body and will do not interact well and the will is dominated by the body's demands, problems can arise. It could lead to alcohol addiction, overeating, or even worse, sexual violence. And these are examples of problems that arise when the body's habits dominate the will. And then John Ortberg explained Wheeler's concept of soul care as follows. Caring for the soul ultimately means supplying what my body needs and wants. Focusing my thoughts on truth and what is right, pursuing what is healthy and meaningful, and utilizing my body to support those healthy desires. All good stuff. And Jesus might point out that it is possible to gain the world of ministry success or success of the field of our work and lose our own soul in the midst of it all. If Jesus were speaking to us today, he might also point out that when leaders lose their souls, so do the churches and the organizations they lead. So how is with your soul? How is with your soul? Wesleyan bands of Christ followers got together in small group meetings. Their first question to each other was, how is it with your soul? I have been in leadership roles all of my life, even from my childhood. My mother vividly remember, and I do vaguely too, that every morning while we were waiting for a bus to go to the kindergarten, I always had the kids line up. When the bus comes, I guided them to get on the bus one by one, and I would be the last one to get on. And she remembers my short leg getting on the bus. I was a leader. Everything from serving in lay leadership positions, conducting a 50-member church choir, being the pastor of different sizes of churches, and being the district superintendent of over 140 churches, to my current responsibilities as the executive director of a nonprofit organization. I know what it is to serve under someone else's leadership, and I know what it is to bear the weight of responsibility for carrying out a vision that has been given by God. Beyond our own experiences, I have spent years listening to the cries of individuals in counseling sessions and groups of leaders on retreat I led. The cries are gut-wrenching and consistent. There has to be more to life and leadership than many of us experience. And I too found myself crying out for help. Many of the inner struggles I experienced felt too shameful to share openly. I lacked the energy to put a positive spin on everything. Behind the shining images of Sunday mornings, I saw the mundane community meetings, the numbing routines, and the persistently difficult individuals who consumed a significant portion of my time. And beneath the heroic portico I had constructed for myself, I glimpsed my wearing perfectionism, my resentment toward those who didn't employ as much effort I did, and my hunger for approval. And as a single mom, I saw the lonely face of my own daughter left behind during countless holidays and weekends while I attended to the needs of others and their families. Despite my initial calling to care for the wounded, I found myself departing to compassion fatigue. My noble aspiration to live a life of selfless servanthood had gradually transformed into merely being a provider of services. For years, I clung to the belief that if I persevered and pushed forward, everything would eventually fall into place. I attended countless workshops and conferences, seeking fulfillment and rejuvenation, only to emerge with a lingering dissatisfaction regarding my own situation, my immediate surroundings, and my own gifts and abilities. What I really was saying was that my leadership, which usually flows from what is going on in my own soul, was at that moment disconnected from the reality of God in my life. It was not the first time I had observed such a decline, and I know it would not be the last. This poem touched me deeply, poem written by Ted Logan. Holy One, there is something I wanted to tell you. But there have been errands to run, bills to pay, meetings to attend, washing to do. And I forget what it is I wanted to say to you. I forget what I am about. Oh, wow. Oh, God, don't forget me, please, for the sake of Jesus Christ. Such moments are experienced by all of us. Instances when our leadership feels like something we put on, like a pair of shoes taken out of the shoebox for a special occasion, rather than something that naturally flows from a deep inner well nourished by a pure source. And many of us have reached a point where we have achieved considerable knowledge and expertise. And we have achieved the significant accomplishments. Yet deep within, we sense that something vital is missing. Strengthening the soul of your leadership in the places where you need it most. And truly the best thing any of us have to bring to leadership is our own transforming selves. And that is the journey to which you are being invited. And what do you really benefit if you gain the whole world and lose your own soul? There's anything worth more than your soul. And what do you benefit if you gain the fame and success in your field and achieve everything, but lose your own soul? So I'm incorporating cultivating healthy soul as one of the essential characteristics of effective leadership, contributing to ultimate success. And strengthening the soul of your leadership is an invitation to enter more deeply into the process of spiritual transformation and to choose to lead from that place. So you probably will say, thank you for all the long information. I get it. What do we do? What do we do with it? What's next? And Henry Nouwen wrote, each of us longs to live well, to experience love and belong, to be connected to family and friends, and to make our unique contribution to others. And he asks, what path shall we take? What will lead us to the fulfillment of our deepest longings? And he invites us to think about our lives in terms of three interconnected moments that he sees modeled in the life of Jesus: solitude, community, and compassionate service to others. It is through solitude and prayer that we can stay in touch with our truest identity as children of God. And this leads us into relationship with others in community where we learn to celebrate and forgive. Then it is these relationships that sustains us as we reach out to serve others through compassionate ministry. As an inspiring example of solitude being implemented within an organization by a soulful leader, we can look to the founder and CEO of the International Justice Mission, Gary Haugen, I don't know how to pronounce his name. He encouraged all members of the organization to embrace 30 minutes of silence, cultivating solitude and stillness as a regular practice every morning at 8:30. Imagine a staff of high-performing lawyers, criminal investigators, social workers, and professionals in Washington, D.C. rushing into the office to begin their day, faced with the tasks of fighting slavery, human trafficking, police abuse, and other forms of violent oppression. As this staff arrive at their desks, their first order of business is to stop. All phones are off, laptops closed, no email, no meetings. And he wrote, on any given day, stillness can be hard. Did I? So he says, on any given day, stillness can be hard, even awkward, frustrating. We count each day like a jar of river water that has been shaken. The water is murky, impossible to see through. But as the jar sits still unmoved, the silt and sediment begin to settle. And then we can talk to God, our good and loving Father, about what it is we actually need for that day, asking for his wisdom, his guidance, his grace to prevent. Opening ourselves to the work of the Spirit requires effort and discipline, and need to keep questioning what in our personal or corporate lives need to be reformed. There are many options of spiritual discipline to care for our soul. But one of the very profound meditation that I would like to introduce is the Ignatian examen. I don't know if you are familiar with that. Ignatian examen, so-called Ignatian meditation, is a spiritual practice rooted in the teachings of Saint Ignatius of Loyola. founder of the Society of Jesus. It is a method of prayerful reflection and self-examination that helps individuals become more aware of God's presence and discern the movements of the Spirit in their daily lives. And it typically involves a structured process of reviewing and reflecting upon one's day. And it gives you a series of questions each day. And you follow the question. And you get to really look into deeply in yourself and be thankful. And get in touch with your feelings. And also plan for actions for the next day. And seeking forgiveness and reconciliation. So the book that I use each day is and I actually introduced, I will show it to you later, the list of books that I recommend. And in terms of community and compassionate service to others, I would like to connect them to meaning therapy, borrowed from Viktor Frankl's concept. Viktor Frankl, a psychologist who survived the Holocaust, as you may well know, a person who knows why they need to live can endure any situation instead. So essence of meaning therapy is to find one's own purpose in the midst of difficulties and trials. By discovering that purpose, one can endure any hardship and grow even in the midst of it. And I believe this is similar to the faith that can withstand any trial when we find meaning in the will of the Lord. As a reward of listening to the long talk, I will play a fun video for you. And when I prepared this, I actually edited to make it short. Let me see if I can. Yeah.
Dr. Jisun.
Can you hear it well?
No, we cannot hear the video. Maybe, can you check if you shared also the audio? Maybe stop sharing and try to share again and share also the audio. When you share your screen, there is this option to share audio as well. Maybe we'll be able to listen to it.
Where is pause the share?
Yeah, you should pause sharing, stop sharing, and try to share again. In the bottom of your box, it will have something saying to share the sound, and you have to click on that.
Yeah, I tried it before.
Or I'm not sure if I will be able, or if you want me, I can try to share that one for you and see if that.
Yeah, that would be great because I actually.
No, I can try to do that. I will stop your screen sharing to that. Okay, to do that.
All right.
Share sound. Let's see here. Just a second. I will reload it because it doesn't. Just a moment. Okay. Let me do it again. Share the sound. Let me see if I can do that now. So let's see. Now it seems to.
What are you going to do for us today?
So we're here to do some science
Can you hear now, all of
Yes.
you? Okay, perfect.
language and some singing.
Brilliant.
Thank you. We was told that Christian would never be able to communicate. I taught him sign language so then he could talk, and he's here, a little miracle, proving everybody wrong.
Yes, sister! That's what sister's supposed to do.
I didn't want to accept that Christian would never be able to communicate. I just knew that there was a voice in there that needed to come out. Exciting, isn't it? No. You're so cheeky. We decided we wanted to teach other people this, so we started a class. We're just amazed by how many people wanted to get involved.
We wish you all the best.
Say thank you.
Don't make me melt.
I'm not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. Some words wanna cut me down, but instead of blood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. Some words wanna cut me down. Gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. This is brave, this is bruised, this is who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me.
That's it. That's it. You know, when the girl was 14 years old. The brother was born, and she started to learn sign language for her disabled brother. And how precious of a gift it must have been in the lives of these children, children with disability who could face darkness. And even if people say no one will like me, they'll say, this is me, this is me. You know, this lyric holds so much meaning. You must have self-love and acceptance, and despite what others may say or think, no firm resistance. And that spiritual practice can help you to have that assurance and confidence. So I will share the screen again to show you the books that I recommend.
Dr. Jisun, I don't know if you wanted to continue sharing some of the slides. I stopped sharing the slides.
Can you see what I shared?
Let me see. Yes, we can.
So these are the recommended readings, and the book that I showed you is also in there. If you want to. And thank you. I skipped through some, but yeah.
Was beautiful.
Any comment? Question?
I think you got us all emotional right now. Give us a minute to breathe. Yeah. Let me.
Dr. Kwak,
Mhm.
thank you for your amazing presentation. It's fascinating to hear you speak. A lot of times we have conversations about leadership devoid of spirituality, or we disconnect the two. We're so used to doing that in the corporate setting. But it's difficult, right? It's difficult to remove that side of us as practitioners when we're thinking about leadership, when we're thinking about the impact we have on others, because ultimately leadership is about leading others. It's about being present to others. So I just wanted to share how much I appreciated your perspective. And you provided in such a way that engages. You know, a lot of times we hear the spiritual side of leadership and people, it could be divisive at times. But the way you presented it is actually really engaging, and it kind of brings you in, and it makes you think. And so I, for one, I won't speak for anyone else on the call, but I, for one, really appreciated your approach, and just how you presented the information. There's a lot to process. There's a lot to digest. And then that video at the end, I mean, it totally conveyed a lot of what you were sharing in a very short clip. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Dr. Kwak, also, I wanted to say that I also appreciate your presentation. And going back to your first question about the soul, I can see throughout your presentation, and I actually, having been into the corporate world, how easy is to lose your soul or to corrupt your soul. How easy is to not having those moments of silence, prayer, and reflection. how easy it is to corrupt who you are. So I really appreciate you talking about that, because when we talk about leadership, global leadership, having those moments to, to have to create or to nurture your solid soul, having, this moment is so important for us, and it's really easy to corrupt ourselves. I personally had those experience before. Thanks God I could find myself again and go back to the track, but it's really something very tricky for leaders nowadays. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Hi, dear friend. It is always good to see you. Always good to hear you. And thank you for the reminder. Because it is easy when you're pouring out, as we both know, to forget sometimes what's most important. And then striving to find your way back to, I think, a space anchored in faith, but a space of wholeness. When you've hit rock bottom in some ways.
You're right. Absolutely. And as I have shared the last time, when it comes to religious leadership, then it's much more detrimental. That you have to expect a lot from yourself, and people expect a lot from you.
I'll say there's a large portion of that that's just the expectation of the people that you serve, and the the leadership at the higher level. There's something in the chat from Dr. Sonia. She says, thank you so much, Reverend Kwak. I'm so grateful for your presentation. Thank you for your service and leadership. I really appreciate the time you spent with us today.
Thank you, Sonia. So the Ignatian meditation, I strongly recommend. That's really a great tool.
Dr. Kwak, I really also want to express my appreciation, and you're such a pleasure to listen to as well. Your voice just has such a nice tone. It just really communicates reverence and joy. And I appreciate that. And I'm interested in your meditation practice. Over the years, I've been better at it, less good at it. What kind of meditation do you practice or sort of recommend?
So the one that I recommended to you, and also I do strongly, is the Ignatian Examen. That's the meditation tool, but it's not the meditation that you just sit and be in solitude in quietness. This is the guided meditation. And each day there are 34 kinds of meditations that you can choose. Yes, 34. and I just go by every day one by one. And sometimes I skip to the ones that more meaningful to me for the time being. And so this is something that will guide you to the better space.
Mhm.
Because sometimes we do not know what to do, right? And sometimes we
Exactly.
don't know what to pray
Yeah.
for. And meditation in solitude is really difficult for the time like, that we are living in right now. A lot of noises out there. The noises are in our minds as well.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
it's, as I said, as you all know, that it's hard to be just sit still, doing
Yeah.
nothing is the most difficult thing.
It is. Yeah. Hurry up and relax.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for that recommendation.
Yeah. So that's something that I really strongly recommend. And also there are a couple of apps that I use. Probably I can email you later, that on my phone that also gives me guided scripture and meditative words and music along with it. So I enjoy that too.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And one more thing, I also go at least once a year,
Uh-huh.
a week of retreat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a week of retreat to places where that I can be myself, be alone, be in solitude, be in prayer, be whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I do normally, like in January, as I begin the new year.
Mhm.
And that's been very helpful too.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
So do you do that at monasteries sometimes?
Yes. I try to find the places that I would love to visit, or sometimes I just go to the retreat center nearby when I don't have much time, like 3 or 4 days.
Mhm.
Dr. Kwok, that was beautiful presentation. I know we went some minutes after our time. I wanted to honor your time. So I just wanted to check if everyone would have any additional comment, or if yourself wanted to deliver any final comment or message before we close the session.
I just want to say that, the spiritual discipline is not a one-time thing. It's something that we can achieve one day. It takes efforts and discipline, and it's a lifetime process. So just be patient and get into it. And if you fail it someday, that's okay too. Just don't be too hard on yourself. Just put your step in day by day, one foot at a time. And someday you will get there.
That's beautiful. That's an amazing message to finish our session, and also to close our leadership speaker series. Thank you so much in the name of the center, our associate dean. I really appreciate, we all appreciate you doing that for us, for the students. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.